Hello, BookTube, and welcome, one and all, to the world of Mars. We are doing a read-along for the whole year. We're doing a read-along of the Barsoom novels of Edgar Rice Burroughs. Doesn't that sound like fun? The idea came up, and like all cool kids, we pursued it on the Discord server. And a group of booktubers and I are going to do a Barsoom read-along. And it's a very gentle read-along. It's something that you could probably do with us if you're the least bit curious. We invite everybody to come along. We are going to read the Mars novels of Edgar Rice Burroughs, which started well over a century ago with The Princess of Mars. And I don't know if you can tell, this is a science fiction book club edition with a cover by the great Frank Frazetta. Look at that cover. OMG. And this science fiction book club also reproduces his black and white spot illustrations all throughout. So this is a much loved edition on my part. But the story began not as a book, but in pulp magazines. Edgar Rice Burroughs hammered out a story about a Confederate officer, John Carter, who, trapped in a cave by American Indians and fearing certain death, transports to Mars. A version of Mars. He doesn't transport to a dead, freezing cold desert planet and immediately die. But we'll get to the differences between Edgar Rice Burroughs' Mars and the actual Mars in due time. No, instead he translates to a wildly imaginative fantasy land that is full of different races and amazing exotic technology that is somehow still bonded to a code of chivalry, so that a man with 1864 technology at his disposal could rise to the very peak through swordsmanship. That's what John Carter does. And there's all sorts of science fiction elements involved. Of course, a lot of the races on Mars are alien. They're not just humans who live on Mars. They're very, as you can see, there's a gigantic lizard dog in the background. That is John Carter's dog, Woola. And there's also a multi-armed, green, 18-foot-tall creature called a Thark, there are tribes of them that are good. There are tribes of them that are very bad. There are all sorts of exotic creatures like that on Mars. And on top of that, John Carter himself is exotic. Because, as an Earthman, when he goes to Mars, which has a much lighter gravity than Earth, he can suddenly spring huge distances and is much stronger. He's essentially the same quasi-scientific explanation for his superpowers as would append to Superman 20 years later, where Superman comes from a world with a denser gravity, and so in Earth's light gravity, he has superpowers. Basically the same thing, and the same blind spots, of course, since that if you were from a denser gravity and you went to a planet with lighter gravity, yes, you might be able to jump long distances and have great physical strength for about 24 hours, and then you would die. You need your gravity to be just right. You don't get a free day off from school if it's suddenly a different gravity. No, you start to suffer serious effects. You don't believe me? Ask a NASA scientist what it's like to deal with living in low gravity. It's not a picnic. You're not killing Tharks, right? But anyway, this novel is from 1920 or so. It's a fantastic, rollicking time, and I don't know if you can tell from this science fiction book club edition, but it's short. It's a short novel. It's like 130 pages long. So you could join us in this read-along, because it's not. This is a read-along I'm doing with a lot of other booktubers, so it's not crushing. It's normal. It's a normal read-along. I'm doing this read-along with Mike at Pints and Paperbacks, Scott at Book Invasion, Matt at Paperback Junky. Of course, we had to have an actual pulp publisher, and who's also a Barsoom fanatic, and Mark Richardson, and yours truly. And Mark and I have spent many misspent youths reading the Mars novels when we really should have been reading Schopenhauer. So those are your 5 hosts, and we are going to read 1 book a month. And 1 book a month is possible, and A Princess of Mars is possible for you in many ways. First, it's an origin story. So you're not jumping in medias res, and you don't need to worry about science fiction. Edgar Rice Burroughs will take you along for all the science fiction. Everything that you're learning about Mars, John Carter is learning about Mars for the first time. So even if you don't read science fiction, this is still going to be completely involving for you. And 2, it's not very long. Like I said, it's 130, 140 pages long. It's not very long at all. And aside from a couple of chapters that I worry might give a couple of you problems, it has no longueurs, so you will keep reading. And 3, the third thing that makes this an easy choice is that A Princess of Mars is in the public domain. So there will be 80 million editions at your bookstore if you have a good bookstore. There's a Penguin Classic. There's also free text on Project Gutenberg, and on I believe there's a free Audible, a free audio book as well on LibriVox. Probably a bunch of other places too. And once you're in the public domain, anybody can make an edition of A Princess of Mars and just run it. And so you have many, many choices. This, in other words, will not be a hard book to find. I'm often limited or feel limited anyway on this channel in read-alongs by wondering if you can actually find a copy of the book. That's why a lot of my read-alongs have been in the public domain, to make sure that you can just go to any number of free download sites and get the book. That is true with The Princess of Mars. You can do that. It's true with quite a few. I think quite a few of the early books in this series are in the public domain. So, so it's a welcome mat thrown open to you to join us in Marsathon for the whole year, for the rest of the year. So we'll be starting in March with The Princess of Mars. And in addition to those 3 things, so we have one is that it's beginner friendly. This is the first book in the series, and not only that, but you're being the weird new adventures that John Carter embarks on, he's embarking on for the first time. So you're encountering all this stuff with him. And 2, it's not a long book, so it's not a massive investment of your time. And 3, it's in public domain, so you can access it in 6 ways from Sunday and have it on your phone at all times to get your way through it. And I guess the 4th welcoming factor that would be involved in this specific read-along is that our hosts span the spectrum of encounters with this book and this series. Scott at Book Invasion and Mike at Pints and Paperbacks have never read any Mars books. And Matt at Paperback Junky and Mark and I have many times read the Mars books. So you'll have fresh eyes as well as experienced eyes all throughout the read-along. Isn't that fun? And in addition to that, one other fun thing that I could never promise in a read-along of my own, but I have been assured by the young people involved that the technology is something I can do. Mike has the idea that we will do live streams. That we'll do a live stream for every book. There'll be some date in the month. We'll announce when it's going to be. We'll also announce when we're going to do a discussion video. There'll be a discussion video every month, later in the month. And then, but he's also assuming that we can do a live stream with actual audience participation at some point in the month. It'll be a little bit of a coordination because through sheer coincidence, we actually straddle the whole country. The 5 of us. We're almost in 5 different time zones. Almost. It's close to 5 different time zones. And all of my co-hosts are busy people. And all of my co-hosts have decided to procreate and have children. So there's going to be all kinds of factors to juggle in order to make a live stream happen, but I think we can do it. And wouldn't that be fun? To have 5 of us on the screen, and you. Well, I will update with you with all sorts of announcements the more we learn about what's going to happen. For at the very least, when we decide on a date for the discussion video, what date in March? Probably be later in the month, I would assume, just to accommodate their schedules. As you know, I can make videos at any time, but probably later in the month, we would make a discussion video and schedule a live stream. I think that would be so much fun if it happens. I'm told that the technology is fairly simple. We shall see. We shall see. But that is our Marsathon, and I invite you to join us. This is going to be a lot of fun. You have a wide variety of guests, of hosts for the event, and it's fun literature. Let's just put it that way. It's not... Edgar Rice Burroughs was writing for a general audience. He was writing for the pulps. He was writing at great speed. So you're going to notice right away this isn't exactly Tolstoy, but it's tremendously gripping. And boy, oh boy, could this guy come up with ideas. Oh man, could he come up with ideas. It's world building of an incremental and somewhat haphazard sort that we don't see anymore. Nobody writes like this anymore. Now, if you want to build an entire alternate Mars with a character who goes there and gains superpowers, you spend 10 years plotting it and thinking about it and writing draft after draft, and you succeed in getting it to an agent, and it comes out as a 10-book series that is carefully envisioned. This was done seat of the pants, and you'll be able to tell that in quite a few points. You'll be able to tell that. I myself think that gives it a greater charm. But anyway, I wanted to announce a new March event. We've already got March Mystery Madness and a bunch of other stuff, but now we have Marsathon as well. And it's not just a March event, because when we're finished with The Princess of Mars, we're moving on. So in April, we will do the second Barsoom novel of Edgar Rice Burroughs. So I invite you all to join. I will leave links to all of my co-hosts down below. I'm sure that some of them, at least, you know already. But I'll leave links to all of them. I invite you to go to their channels, subscribe to their channels if you're not subscribed already, so that you see every one of these. I've also been told that putting the Marsathon hashtag helps to make these searchable, so I will certainly do that. And we will reconvene at some date in March to talk about A Princess of Mars. I will make a separate video to pop in and tell you the specific details of the discussion video and the live stream. But for now, I just thought I'd pre-warn you so that you could go get this thing and download it right away and start in on the fun, because these are mighty fun. These books are mighty fun. Whether or not they're Tolstoy, they are mighty fun. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.